We have 3 directors. If someone on the outside can get Mr. Desert and Mr. Menville. We're going to move item number 17 up to our next item. That is the presentation by Imperial County Supervisor Gary Wyatt on renewable energy.
Why are we moving it up? Just because he's Mr. Wyatt, Supervisor Wyatt?
Well, I don't think
your
you moved,
privilege?
I don't think you moved it up at all, really, too much.
Well, we did.
But I appreciate it. I really do. Thank you. And I do have another commitment. I need to be in Brawley by about 5 o'clock.
7:30? Lakers play 7:30.
It's too early to worry about the Lakers in this season, so we'll wait till they get closer to the actual playoffs. They don't seem to care before that. Thank you for the opportunity and for moving it up a little bit on the schedule. I appreciate that, to accommodate. It's been a long day for a lot of us. I've been at it since 8:30, and we went to 1:30 without
Here's at 6 in the morning.
Yeah, well, good. I'm happy that that we're all working hard.
Yes.
And it's recognized by everybody too, and the radio and the newspaper recognize it and like to tell us about how great we're doing. And I just wanted to cover a couple things. I'm going to turn it over to someone else here just shortly. But this particular, what I'm going to present today about growing renewables in this industry in the Imperial Valley, I mean, as you know, it goes without saying, this is incredibly important to us in Imperial County. For many years, there's been a lot of people have been talking about how important renewables are to our valley and our future, and that it is an incredibly important part of our future, and it's already an incredibly important part of our present. But back in 2007, I met with some others, and we began to talk about the future of this particular industry in Imperial Valley, and we agreed that Imperial Valley should be the renewable energy capital of the United States. That phrase has been picked up and used many times since then, and others have seen this possibility, as I said before us. But now that's you, the IID, and the County of Imperial need to do our part in growing this industry. And I'll see if I can work this. It went the wrong way. That's great, Gary. The side one? You mean that one? Oh, okay. Well, it's not news, but you know, Imperial Valley has a huge potential for renewable energy and the new jobs and economic growth that it could create. And we possess significant resources here in the valley. And these particular statistics come from, as you see on the bottom of the report, from the Summit Blue report that was produced a couple years ago, and IID was a report generated for IID, so you're well aware of that. But we have the possibility of creating as much as 43,000 megawatts of renewable energy here in Imperial Valley. That translates that in the renewable queue in IID, there's an investment volume of as much as $10 billion or more over the next 5 years. And that means to us that we could create in excess of 100,000 new jobs in Imperial County over the next few years, if we realize this potential. Now, the most important thing for those who know about real estate is location, location, location. And it's true about renewable energy as well. We have the location, the location, the location. We not only have the great resources here, but we're also close to the large California load centers, potential customers for IID renewable power. This is not news for you, but increasing our production of renewable energy will also increase our self-sufficiency. So growing green locally will help us to maintain the local control, a phrase that is kind of important to a lot of us in a lot of ways. We really work at that particular type of thing. We've been working together, IID and county, on the 2-on-2 committee for a while, the last couple of years, because we want to work at creating this opportunity and realizing the great opportunity we have available to it. We have issues that we have to take care of at the county, and some of those have to do with the zoning issues, and some has to do with the conversion of ag land to other types of things. We don't want to get into a discussion about some of that. The first action on that was something I been promoting or been in favor of, and having to do with something called the Williamson Act. But that we are going to deal with that particular issue as well, so that we can make available the possibilities of working with IID and making these things happen. I'm going to, because of the time frame for me, I'm going to ask that Mr. Andy Horn come up and talk to you about the next couple slides here. So I think he's close by. You want your own?
Tell me how to work the clicker.
Right there goes
Right
forward.
there. Oh, beautiful.
Okay. And
Thank
good
you,
luck with
Mr.
Andy, and you should be done by 5:30.
Now you gotta be done sooner than that.
Thank you, Mr. Wyatt.
Nice to see you, Gary.
What about me?
Nice to see you, Andy.
Yeah, thank you.
First, we have to hear what you say. Gotta say.
I'm gonna miss you, Andy.
I do miss him, yeah.
Well, I miss being here, Stella, deeply. And I've been here today long enough to make up for all the time I've been away. But it is an important issue, and I really appreciate the time that you've made available to talk about it. And I think Dr. Koch's presentation laid the groundwork, or certainly proved a good lead into this, and it really ties on nicely to what he was talking about. And I think it's obvious that IID takes this issue seriously and is working forward. I think this slide here, just to follow up on some of the Summit Blue information, talks about the number of jobs. Gary already covered that. So I think one of the things that we need to guard ourselves on is believing a lot of our own propaganda. And I've been responsible for some of that propaganda, or a great deal of it. And that is that, we know we're going to have a lot of renewable energy development down here, and aren't we doing a great job? I know I am.
Well, one of them would it be if we did 43,000 megawatts? Wouldn't we be able to serve California as a whole?
Well, I think that's part of that propaganda, Anthony. I mean,
there's
that was
other
the
utility or other projects in the rest of California.
That was the technical potential that your consultant, the Summit Blue company, identified down here, which is certainly an indication of the immense resource that we have here. But obviously we know we're not going to develop 43,000 megawatts. But I think we have to be aware of the fact that if we don't address some of the challenges that David and some of the other generators talked about, and that Gary talked about briefly, including some of the county's own issues that need to be addressed, we do run the risk of perhaps missing this window of opportunity we have, because the drivers are these RPS standards that have specific timelines associated with them. 2010, of course, is here now, and I know with the law built some wiggle room into that to 2013 in terms of a hard compliance with that, and then we have a 33% RPS, and some say that under AB 32 with the greenhouse gas reduction targets that it could go to as high as 50%. But if we don't address some of the issues that we have already identified, we can't just assume that we're going to see a tremendous amount of development here. We'll see some, and some is already occurring. But in order to take full advantage of at least a good share of that 43,000 megawatts that Anthony talks about, we need to make sure that we got our act together. This slide and the graph there, I think, and it's not, I don't think, meant to point the finger at anybody here, but I think it does show that other solar PPAs, in this case, in this slide, are being developed and are being signed. There are some that have already been signed for projects here in Imperial County, but as was pointed out earlier, those are all tying directly into the ISO grid at the Ivy substation. So if you look at the signed PPAs that have been approved by CPUC anyway, and this is where this slide comes from, in the IID service territory, tying into the IID system, the current number is 0 in terms of megawatts. And so we can do better than that.
What about Sterling Energy?
Sterling is tying into the ISO grid directly at Ivy Substation.
That
So
we wouldn't
it's-
consider that in Imperial Valley?
These are the ones, as I said, that are tied into through the IID system, and I think that's what IID sounds like wants to occur. IID currently, I think, receives about $15 million a year in wheeling revenues from the geothermal developers, and if we multiply that out, fivefold, tenfold for the. I mean, that's 600 megawatts worth. I think it's easily to expect that we could multiply that times 5. Probably not too hard to imagine we could multiply it by 10. That's a significant amount of revenue. So I think the goal is, and I think too, and I'll point that out in one of the next slides. It was this one. It's not this one. It's probably the next one. But the and you guys and Stella has said and made a very good case that we want to maintain control of our balancing authority, and we don't want to put the ratepayers at risk, and we don't want somebody else coming in here and building a transmission system, in place of what IID could do. And I think we would all, as IID ratepayers and residents here, be benefited if IID is successful in maintaining or upgrading their system in line with what the demand is in order to accommodate the developers at which to build here, and that will then benefit the IID ratepayers from the generation of revenue and the economic development potential that we have here, all as residents of Imperial County. So these are conclusions in this slide here that were all part of that Summit Blue report, and I'll just call your attention right there to the one in the red. IID and the county need to become more proactive and focus in their efforts. I think we've made some progress working together doing that, and I think we just need to continue that progress and hopefully overcome some of the challenges that we have. So those bullet points down below just talk about, for instance, some of the components of a strategic plan recommendation that Summit Blue had recommended. Specifically, what our group that we have been working with, and Jim and Gary have been central to that and talking to some of the developers here. One of the things, and it certainly is a worthwhile goal and objective of the strategic plan, to deliver water and power to its own customers. IID also has an element in the strategic plan that says we'll promote economic development activities in Imperial County, but there is not a specific strategic plan element that prioritizes the export of renewable energy to customers outside the IID service territory. And even though we wouldn't be using that power, it certainly would be beneficial to the ratepayers, and I think beneficial to IID if we could develop that or highlight that or prioritize that in the IID strategic plan. And I feel kind of silly because I went to a lot of the meetings that you guys had, what was it, a year or two when you were updating the strategic plan, and my job was to try to, at the county, was to try to help facilitate renewables, and I should have brought that up, but I didn't think about it because I don't think anybody really understood at that time the magnitude of the issue or how that issue, how central and critical that was to the promotion of the renewable industry here. So what we're suggesting is that IID take a look at adding a specific strategic goal in its strategic plan to prioritize the export of renewables from Imperial Valley through the IID system to other load-serving entities outside of IID. And while doing that, while ensuring that the IID protects the needs of its customers through the independence of the balancing authority, ensuring the competitiveness of local renewable projects, and I think Dave talked about the rate structure that they're looking at, and I would encourage that to continue. And also, as it already states, to foster economic development of the county by better communicating. And I know that...
Andy, could I?
Sure.
Number 4.
You want to use my
number
pointer?
2.
Yeah.
Like,
you get that pointer?
oxymoron. I mean, that, huh?
Where'd you get that pointer?
It's mine.
Go ahead.
You got one too.
No, I have one over
Yes,
there.
you have.
Go ahead.
Mine's faster than yours. I understand that. When you start talking about coordinating with Cal ISO, that scares me. Scares me big time.
Well,
You have to be very careful how you go there.
I think you're preaching to the choir, obviously. No, the only reason you say
Don't
that-
tell me you went to the
only
other
reason-
side.
The only reason you saying that because you know everybody in this room agrees with you, and I think there's a clear distinction between becoming jurisdictional or joining the Cal ISO. Although some people have said, who don't live here and
I
didn't
hope it's
live-
not you.
and didn't live through the energy crisis when the rest of the state had the brownouts and blackouts and so forth that we had 10 years ago, that we ought to consider doing that. I don't know that that's a reliable option for us, but I think we can improve the coordination and communication. And Dave talked about that earlier. Maybe he hasn't told everybody in the world what he's doing, and I'm glad to hear it today, but we need to continue that. And I think Dave would agree. Yes, Director Sanders.
Currently, the district is moving. I'm trying to figure out. Are you basically talking about solar photovoltaic? Because currently, the district is moving energy from RAM to PG&E. Ormat, with the number one, their one plant is going out of service territory. Green Light, I think, has a PPA going out of the service territory. Exactly how exactly are you bringing this?
You're talking about this slide right here.
Well, no, not necessarily that slide, but I think your end conclusion is to make it a strategic goal that the district exports renewable energy. And I just named 3 projects that are just going out of the IID system.
Well, we already know that IID exports 600 megawatts of geothermal from Cal Energy and Ormat. So certainly we have the history and the ability to do that. I think we just need to take a look and make sure that we're in a position, and I think it's clear from listening to Dr. Koch's presentation that you guys are working on that. But I think it would be helpful, and I think it would send a good message to those developers that are looking at developing here, to those entities, to those utilities that are looking to buy power here, that we highlight this strategic goal in a way that expresses clearly to the outside world that we're serious about getting this issue resolved, not only for the ones that we have now,
Right.
or those few that are in contracts with for PPAs, like Energy Source on their first project that's wheeling through the IID system, but for all or as much of that 43,000 megawatts that we can build.
And having named those 3 projects that are going to be built here pretty soon, or one's already been built, the first Ormat, so we made sure of that, and then Greenlight being built. I know the issue or the challenge for the district is going to be with all these separate photovoltaic companies who spread out across the Imperial County, who's going to tie in. Now that line may not be used at all during the year, only during the summer.
Right.
And who is going to pick up that tab when it's not being used between September and March? Is that something the district wants to pick up? I mean, there's many issues still have to be discussed amongst the board members on that. But we understand the issue, and it's going to be an issue not only for the ones that are present, but for future ones. So I think me as one board member understands that. And the other thing too is we don't want a bunch of lines all over Imperial County. Then you have the eyesore, so to speak, from a project in the east, county, project in the west, north, south. But I know that the district is, we've moved forward. There's no doubt about it. Director Hanks?
Yeah, I would ask the board to join me in asking our general manager to add, as an amendment to our strategic plan, this item that we discussed today.
Yeah,
It's a good idea.
And I'd also ask that we instruct the GM to bring it back to us next meeting as an outline to insert into the strategic plan, and then to have the staff go ahead and start working on finalize and
Sure.
complete a plan that gives us the assurance that the renewables are going to have a path to be exported from the area. Included in that plan, I would like, if necessary, a component
Deadline for the agenda.
to deal with the legislature if necessary.
Wait, are you asking for the item number 4 that David Koch Do we put on the strategic plan?
That would be up to them. Bring us back.
I thought we were going to wait for that for a workshop.
Well, if I might, excuse me, we do have, and we have had in the strategic plan, and we have completed a transmission plan, you may all recall, which did address all this. But what we'll do is we'll refresh this.
This would be specific.
Understand.
And I'd also ask in there, in our 2-on-2 meetings, we've talked about quarters so that we wouldn't have projects just rampant everywhere, you know. I think that might be a good time to try to.
Okay, we'll bring that back. The next meeting is Monday.
Right.
If we can wait for the next meeting after that,
And
that
I
would
was
be
just,
that would be
talking
helpful.
about, you know, just the skeleton outline, not in depth.
I
Just-
understand.
Just so that it's inserted, and then the in-depth would be up to the staff to bring back.
I think all that would be necessary, perhaps, if I can say that, would just be an endorsement in concept of the idea of adding this as a strategic plan element. And then what would happen, I mean, as was done with the strategic plan development that you currently have, then staff would work with the board to develop the deliverables and the metrics and the responsible parties and so forth that are all in the strategic plan. And that could be done within, a couple of months, probably, I would imagine.
sure.
Yeah.
John?
Would you like to draft that?
I will, if you're authorized me, I'll work with Mr. Garber to,
Yeah, Andy, all you're really looking for is, in our strategic plan, you just want us to prioritize that we're going to be exporting renewable energies out of the Imperial Valley. Is that correct?
I think that would be a very good message to
simple.
send.
So that you can show that as part of IID's strategic plan when people ask, because basically from your PowerPoint here, it's 2 years old, but it's basically saying that we're not getting with the program. When I think
Well,
Dr.
it's referring,
Cole showed today that we are getting with the program. We got 800 and some megawatts and possibly 1,388 megawatts. I don't want to sidetrack the movement that Dr. Koch has and what we're doing, because I think you saw the generators that did get up, especially Jesse Montano, and said, keep moving.
Right.
I think,
Path that we're on.
And perhaps, I don't know, some of those same generators may want to express an opinion on this idea, just whether or not they feel it's a good idea, but the ones that I've talked to have indicated they thought it was. So that's the conclusion of our presentation.
The other issue that you and I spoke about the other day is, and Director Sanchez brought it up, is this building solar throughout the Imperial Valley. Because I know farmers that don't want solar next to their property. They're farmers, they want to farm. I know there's a lot of guys that want solar because a piece of farm ground may only get $175 to $300 an acre rent to grow crops on, where solar's paying $500, $600, $700 an acre, which is a lot more lucrative than growing crops. So we've got to be very careful, and the county hasn't even really looked at how they're going to start permitting all this stuff and what you're going to do for mitigation or any of that stuff.
Well, we have been looking at it, Jean-Pierre, and I think you're right that we don't have a final conclusion on it, because we didn't really, up until the last, I would say, 60 to 90 days, have anywhere near the applications that we have. And we currently, I think I mentioned before, 10,000 acres worth of applications. And most of those have just come in, I would say, in the last 90 days. So that
I get the impression the county's having the same problem we're having with these water applications, with their project applications. I know we receive copies of all the CUP information that goes out, and there is just tons of stuff, and it's hard to tell who's real and who's not, or if they're all real or none of them are real.
I think, Jeff, I would say this, that the quality of the projects and the project proponents that we're seeing today is far better than it was 3 years ago. The shakeout has already occurred in the renewable energy industry, and the people that are here today, the survivors, if you will, are the real players. And I think now you're going to see some real movement, but I think they're going to need some help. We can't expect these people to build their projects down here if we don't have the capacity to address some of the issues related to ag land conversion and some of the transmission issues that we know we're going to have to do. And I would agree with you, and I think Director Hanks said it already, that I think identifying and perhaps pre-zoning some of those areas where we can concentrate the impacts, if you will, on land that maybe isn't currently in production and has access to the transmission, so that those transmission lines aren't, as you said, Director Sanchez, spread out all over the place.
And then you spread out IID investment all over the place, too.
I know that the 8-Minute Energy folks, for instance, have been looking closely at the Midway-Bannister corridor for some of their projects, because they already know that you guys have plans to build transmission lines in that area, and therefore they've looked at building their projects in that corridor in order to eliminate the need to build more transmission lines in other remote parts of the valley. So I think that's the kind of approach that needs to be taken.
Yeah, the other issue that we have to be very careful of, Andy, is some of these people that are building in ag ground here in the valley, like in the southwestern part of the valley, they want to circumvent our system and go directly to IV sub. So basically, they're inside our area. They want to build their own private transmission. They want to use our right-of-ways, and they want to cut us out of the loop. And I've got issues with that. And I think some of the other board members probably have issues with that also.
You bet your boots we do.
Well, I know what you're saying, and that's why I say I think the priority ought to be to create a clear path for those projects that wish to use the IID grid. I think Dr. Koch did an excellent job of spelling out why projects would want to connect directly into the Cal ISO system, because they eliminate some of the costs and so forth and the uncertainty that exists today. If we can figure out a way to make sure that we have that certainty that several of the project people talked about and eliminate that uncertainty, I think we'll be miles ahead.
If I may be permitted to comment, I think it's a great idea to have a strategic plan element directly related to it, but as you can see from the presentation earlier, this is an immensely complicated economic and engineering enterprise, and once we have the plan going, we're going to enter into a construction phase, which is a fast-track effort. So I think the benefit of having it in a separate element is it reminds us we need to put more resources into play to bring this. This is something we have to have some internal discussions, that we have a lot of resources committed to it, but we need to put more resources into play. It is, Director Mendoza continues to mention, we don't want to put the ratepayer at risk, and that's the issue. If you build lines where no development takes place, then you have put the ratepayer at risk. That cost will be shared. So this is very complicated. At the same token, the developers want price certainty. So I think this is doable, and I think we're on the right path. But I do think it is something that's going to require more resources than we currently have at play right now.
I would disagree with you, Ed, only in one sense. You said Director Mendoza mentions it. I would say she's harping on it, because that seems to be what she does very well.
I love you too, Andy.
Thank you, Andy.
I wouldn't say that, though.
Let's move on with information technology. Item number 14.
Item number 14, yeah.
Review work authorization covering upgrades to several business systems.
Dane Vaughn? Okay. You're on.
Mr. Frank Hernandez is going to take the lead on presentation of this topic.
Good evening, Frank Hernandez, IT. I'm here to present the MWA for some storage. This past summer, we did an RFP, number 772, for additional storage and to replace some legacy storage systems. We have an MWA now. Our current total storage for the district business systems is 69 terabytes. We're going to add 40 terabytes of storage for a total cost of $857,117. Estimated useful life of this system is 5 years. Some benefits of the recommended solution is capital cost reductions, storage capacity requirements satisfied with less storage systems, capacity growth without the need to purchase more disk systems. We can add disk without investing large disk systems. IT efficiencies like fewer physical resources to maintain and less physical complexity in the infrastructure. Productivity and service. with this will enhance virtualization of systems, of servers, faster turnaround times for new application provisioning. When a business unit needs a new application, it'll be easier for our IT with the current resources to provision new systems, and enhance disaster recovery capabilities with business continuity improvements due to centralized shared storage, high availability of data through clusters, and built-in management tools to speed up recovery tasks in case there is an outage or something. It'll allow the IT staff to recover that data much quicker. Are there any questions regarding the system or the MWA?
Been a long day.
It has. Yes, it
I
has.
have a question. In your building, you have those huge, what do you call those?
Cabinets?
Yeah, are those going to be obsolete? You're going to replace them with this, or is it the addition too?
Some of them are being replaced completely. The IBM ESS, there's one that is going to completely get retired. And we hope to also retire a second one. Right now, there are 3 systems, and they're listed in the MWA. Only the latest one that we purchased are we going to keep, because we can still really take advantage of the capabilities in that system. And this one can actually control that disk, so we can leverage that investment, and it lengthens that life cycle for that equipment.
And where will these be stored?
In the data center.
The same place, the
In-
data
yes.
center?
Yes, Director.
And you have room there?
Yes, we
for
do.
these? Okay. You're bringing this back next week?
Yes.
All right, are there any questions?
When you come back next week, could you also address the signature page issue? If there's, all the signatures are there.
I noticed that when you brought it up
And
before.
the,
Yes, we will be adding that.
The tracking number for the SAP, it's not listed on the signature page?
The project number is not listed on the signature page, and we will add that. It's listed in the MWA a few times, though.
There was an issue in the past, though, when I first became aware of MWAs, where there's multiple MWAs. That's kind of why I'm curious about MWAs. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 15, Cisco Network on Wheels.
That's still Frank.
Mr. Frank Hernandez will present this topic.
Good evening, Frank Hernandez, IT. With the relationships we build with our vendors for different technology, we have available to us opportunities like having them come out and share technology, the next generation of technology for our staff to be able to see hands-on. There's one thing reading about it. It's better to be able to do some hands-on. So this is a hands-on mobile lab that they're going to bring out to the IID for our staff. And we've taken that opportunity to extend to other public organizations in the Imperial Valley and share that opportunity with them, invited them. So I wanted to share that information with you. On December 15th, a Wednesday, Cisco will be at the water control building bringing their van and a lot of latest technology regarding networking, security, communications, and we've invited a lot of folks from the public and as well as different organizations within IID, like, of course, our IT staff, members of SOC will be invited, telecommunications, water SCADA group, so that is extended. And we just wanted to share that with you, make you aware that we were doing this outreach with the community and taking an opportunity to share these resources with them.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Moving on to item number 16, review resolution declaring the district's intent to reimburse itself for future financing programs.
Good afternoon. This is for information today, and we'll bring it back next week for action. I believe it's similar to a resolution that was passed last year. where the district has the right but not the obligation to reimburse itself for capital expenditures when we have a future bond financing. So that's what this resolution is doing for water, energy, and centralized services. It gives the district the option to do that. And we have to have the resolution to comply with Treasury regulations. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Broking? We'll move on to action items. Number 18, internal auditing, general matters. Mr. Kaiser, is he here? Or who's here?
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. We don't have any general matters today to report. However, we have two audit reports that will come on right after this. Francis Williams will do the reporting. Mr. Kaiser is out of town on a seminar.
Does the board have any questions for auditing on other matters?
On general matters or on the? Which,
For auditing.
General matters, and then they're going to talk on these audits.
I got a question.
Hold
Where are you at on, I know you were doing on the farm service providers on the non-competitive audit, I think on about 10 of them.
We'll report on these
Where
two
are you at with that?
He's on a seminar.
They're been talking to, they're doing some did some investigation and got some results on a specific service provider that they had some questions. And so we are writing the report. I believe that Craig will maybe contact some of the board members and Mr. Gustavo and mainly Mr. Gustavo Reza. Haven't got back to him yet.
Okay.
So he had some questions, and we tried to get a hold of him. Saw
Okay.
him here today,
Thank
but
you.
that's it.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to number 19, acknowledge receipt of 2 audits.
Good afternoon, Mr. President and directors. We're presenting our purchase card expense audit report. In this report, we examined transactions from July through December in 2009, and we outlined observations related to identified unauthorized charges. We identified auto rental charges without proper approval. In these instances, charges were incurred without required pre-approval processes and the use of policy-specified forms. Charges were approved after the use. We examined expenditures to local hotels. These charges represent lodging expenses for contract employees. These charges have been paid using various P cards in names other than those of the user. Due to the complexity of the tracking of these expenses, under the current form of payment, it exposes the district to payroll reporting misstatements. During our examination, we encountered several instances where expense reports were not signed by the employee incurring the expense, nor the supervisor approving it. And we make 3 recommendations. Number 1, focus on improving the departmental transaction approval process. Consider implementing mandatory training for P-card administrators, department-designated employees, and other individuals involved in the approval process. Develop and implement a standard operating procedure to be used to settle contract employee local lodging and other employment-related expenses through the existing SAP accounts payable and payroll modules. And number 3, clarify when and by whom signatures are required on expense reports, then require the consistent application of such signatures. Responsible personnel accepted these recommendations. In addition, since the date of this report, the CFO's office has issued 2 memos. The memos touch on issues stated in this report, as well as provide additional clarification and reinforcement of the existing travel and P-card policies. Are there any questions?
Anybody have any questions on this item?
Yeah, I have a few. First of all, this report, the audit that was done was for only 2009, is that correct?
Yes, it was the latter part of last year.
So in this audit isn't exposing us to what our activities transacted in 2010?
No, that report will be coming in at the early part of this next year.
Okay. And in addition to the lodging, do the in-service meals, as well as the miscellaneous subscriptions, office, and computer supplies for 6 months totaling $22,000, and the in-service meals $32,000, Were those of any significance or
No.
catch your attention for review?
No, if there's any out of policy items, they're very minor in nature, and the value is extremely low. And in those instances, we bring them up to responsible people in the finance department, which they carry through other sections, which whoever is related to the expense.
And the meals, are those included in an employee's annual income statements? Are those subject to reporting?
It depends. Are you talking about in general?
In-service meals?
No, they're not. No, not if they're related. Not if they're related to their work.
On the issue of the non-signature for the activity on the cards, transactions, and the use of another person's card, and the authorization not being signed for. I myself, I'm a new board member and am going to a trip to Las Vegas and don't have a P card or credit card yet, and that's fine. And I asked if I could use director of bodies, and they said absolutely not. So the general manager's office is aware of that, or at least as far as the board members' activities. Shouldn't we be careful here and do a little more examination of this item, especially in lieu of the recent news-breaking item locally with the school district superintendent, past superintendent, and educator at San Diego State being indicted on federal charges? I mean, doesn't this...
Are you asking on the signatures, or are you asking on the use of other people's P cards?
I'm asking on all three items, including the overall audit of what's going on here, and more specifically on the income reporting that goes to the IRS. Are those documents or items also involved here?
Director Desert,
yes.
what was the issue with the superintendent?
Recently, this past week, there was in the newspaper, there was a federal indictment of a past school superintendent that's an administrator at San Diego State and 2 other teachers for a grant application and receiving money out of it. And in lieu of that attention that's been brought there, I really think that we should shed a little more light on this issue and bring it out forward.
Okay, I'm kind of losing you a little bit, though. Are you talking about signing expense reports, or are you talking, what exactly are you talking about?
I'm talking about the issue overall of the lodging.
Okay.
And then the fact that the separate P card was used, another employee's P card was used, and then the transaction did not have a signature on the transaction, nor was there authorization.
Okay. We have written a subsequent report related to that issue, and it is in draft form right now, and it's out for comment to management. Once we get that back, we're planning on presenting that report to the board at the next board meeting.
But it still isn't be in regards to this issue for 2009, and you say you're looking at 2010?
Yes, and we start from scratch at every one of these audits. We address every issue as we come upon it when we're looking at expense reports. And then we bring, you talk about reportable, income reportable expenses. People in that department are addressing those issues. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, this director would like to see an additional report brought back in conjunction with this one for 2009 and include a breakdown for lodging by employee, username, and P card issued to the employee, as well as food, if food is applicable, miscellaneous office and computer supplies that were purchased according to the purchase policy. That's $200 per purchase. That's allowed for miscellaneous purchases.
It's $200 per transaction.
Per transaction, so that'd
Yes.
be 37 transactions a month at $200.
But just to clarify, when these individuals are purchasing supplies, they're not necessarily purchasing them for themselves. They're purchasing for their department, their section. So it's not necessarily tied to just one individual.
I think the report, if you just focused on the same issues of the individuals, that the P cards, whoever was issued the P cards, whoever used the P card inappropriately, whoever didn't sign for the P card, and whoever was authorized, or the alternate that was authorized in the department to sign and authorize. If you just focus on those 4 individuals, I think you'll bring forward some information that we need.
Thank you.
Director.
Yeah. Some of the requests is, I think would involve personnel. We probably ought to ask that be brought to a closed session. Because, you know, I had some questions about required compensation reporting, and some of that is confidential, and I don't care to go there in an open session.
Maybe we should, I would ask Director Desert if you would please come and talk to us. I am not exactly sure what you want to see. As Director Hanks mentioned, there are certain things, certain issues like employees' names, and that they're confidential. So there's certain ways we can say things in open session, and then if there are things that we need to go in more detailed, then that those might need to be addressed in closed session. And usually we do ask legal counsel to help us. Okay, is this appropriate for open session? It is appropriate or for closed session. So regarding your first request, Francis, when you said focus on those four issues, the way we do our reporting, we would like some more clarification if you don't mind. And as she mentioned, I think you were referring to your questions look like you're referring to something else, and as she mentioned, we have a consequent report based on our finding on this one that we presented today that will be coming to the board either hopefully next board meeting. And if you don't have you got your answers then maybe we'll see if you get your answers to your questions with that report that's coming, like I said, the next board meeting or no later than probably December 21st.
Well, then if we have a report that it goes
consequent report.
a consequential, a secondary report that sheds light on all this stuff, that would be great for the directors to have before they vote to accept it. I think Mr. Hanks has made a good point. Why don't we bring this back to closed session and do a further analysis the same way that 2009 was done, do it for 2010, and let's stay focused on the P cards, who they were issued to, who used them, who didn't sign for them, who didn't sign authorization, and who is the alternate that has authorization, as well as any income statement reports to the federal government or state governments that need to be reported that were turned in originally or amended.
If you're asking for a closed session on a specific employee with a matter of potential wrongdoing by an employee, we have to agendize that, and I need to know more. If you're asking auditors to do a report about confidential items and report it in closed session, I don't know enough to know even how to agendize that. I'm not sure what you or Betty are talking about. As a general rule, you just can't go into closed session and talk about confidential items because they're confidential.
No, I'll be happy to help you with that.
Yeah, you go into closed session because there's one of the Brown Act safe harbors that's in play to let you in a closed session. Something may be confidential, but that's not enough to get you in a closed session unless you're within a Brown Act safe harbor. If it's an employee discipline issue, that is a Brown Act safe harbor. So if the internal auditor identified specific wrongdoing with regard to P cards that was a discipline issue, that would kind of go down a different track. So,
well, in regard to discipline policy, there is a discipline policy regarding this kind of activity. And through closed session today, we addressed a discipline action with an employee. So I would just remind staff to take a look at the discipline policy and what is involved in regards to the P cards and purchases and transactions.
Sure.
And accountability and credibility as to who's purchasing, who's signing, who's authorizing, and how it's going down. I would like to see this report come back either in public or closed session per direction, and I'll let Director Hanks finish up his comments on it.
You know, I think for me, the issue had to be with the response. And the response was that we do not agree with the assessed level of risk based on the magnitude of the transactions and the internal controls. You know, it goes beyond here, beyond the level of monetary transactions. Okay? It involves people that are responsible for taking care of a transaction, but there's no signature. So the risk, the magnitude of the monetary risk, that may be an accurate statement. But when it deals with our employees and our procedures and so forth, and the risk it does to them, particularly in their careers, it is a big risk. And I think we need to get clarity there, how we're going to pursue this and who had oversight, and who was responsible.
Well,
Jeff, if we approve the purchase, what's on the agenda today, that doesn't determine that we can't take disciplinary action against any employee who does any wrongdoing.
If you're filing and receiving this report, that doesn't mean that you can't take action. If there's a concern that there's some employee wrongdoing, I think you need to direct staff.
And I think by
determine
filing,
if there is any employee wrongdoing.
if we were to accept it, I think where it says audit conclusion needs improvement, I think we're well, in fact, as saying there's problems. And if the board feels like there is problems, then I guess they would need to accept it and accept that there needs to be improvement.
Out there on the streets, the term, as you're working on an election to get elected to this IID board, credit cards at the IID, or P cards as we call them inside the IID, is a very hot issue. The general public is on fire about it. The general public would like to see these credit cards or P cards pulled. With the economy crash that has occurred, the Imperial County, I know, has reined in all of their credit cards, and travel goes through the CEO's office. I don't think we should take this issue lightly. Those of us on this board that get elected by our public and population here in Imperial County, these credit cards and P cards are a big issue. You IID employees, fight for them. You know you need them to function and work. But if they get abused like this, you are at risk of losing them. So at some time, transparency in combination with accountability has to happen. And on this issue, I would just like to see it brought further forward in analysis and include year 2010.
That's fine.
Mr. Desert, if you want to
Can I
bring
just say
back...
one thing? 'Cause Director Desert, please don't misunderstand my questions and my concern as not appreciating that this is an issue. I'm just looking at the procedural aspect of what the board can do in closed session. If you want the internal auditor or a CFO or HR or whatever to continue to explore this issue, that's fine. I'm just, that the board's not in the discipline business, so it's awkward about asking them to bring back certain issues into closed session for your review, because the board can't really do that. But as far as exploring this issue and it being a concern, that's
yeah.
If that exploration includes identification of employees by name rather than their employee number, how do we do that without taking it to closed session?
Because we're not allowed to go into closed session and talk about specific employee wrongdoing without going through a discipline process. We have policies and procedures for that and Brown Act requirements. We can't just go into closed session and tell you that employee Joe Blow screwed up without giving Joe Blow notice that we're going to go into closed session and going through our discipline policy. So my concern is not trying to get in the way of you resolving P-card issues. My concern is protecting our policy and procedures in the way the Brown Act works.
Okay, give Joe Blow notice and let's take it into closed session.
Mr. Desert, going out and campaigning as far as P cards and abuse, one of the ways you can do it, and I would support you, is you say, let's cut 5% off our P cards. And then as well as look at all the P cards and where it's being spent.
We did a motion to approve this. I'll make a motion.
There's a motion to approve.
Number A, purchase card expense dated June 24, 2010.
Do I have a second?
Second.
There's a second. Discussion?
Discussion as we pass this, that doesn't bury this. This comes forward again.
Nobody's
Just for clarification again, we have another report that's coming to the board. The board members will have the opportunity to read that report before the board meeting on the 21st, as the agenda comes out on Friday. The meeting's going to be on Tuesday, December 21st. So between when it comes out and Tuesday, or on the day on Tuesday when we're going to present that report, and there's still going to be questions from any of the board members, we can address them then. Is that sound acceptable to you, Director Desert?
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
fine. I'd just like to make a statement. There's not very many public, mostly employees here, but for example, with the board, if we use a P card, the individual that uses the P card signs it, signs the purchase, and then it's forwarded to the board president, who signs
For
it.
signature, for approval.
In the case, if it's the board president that uses it, then the vice president signs. You know, so there are controls, okay? And I think it is an issue we've got to get a handle on it. If this is the best possible way to handle these issues, then we need to get a handle on it.
And you just what you mentioned, signature, and that is a soft control. There's sometimes we need to go what is called hard controls, that where if doesn't have the proper signature, the transaction cannot be entered in a system and paid for it. So that is a hard control. If there are other things we can talk about it and make measures, further measures that safeguard our transactions with the P cards.
Yeah, I just want to say, I know the comment was made that they don't want this thing buried. I don't think anybody wants to bury anything, and I think all 5 board members here are for transparency and accountability. And if there's been some wrongdoing, put it on the table. We're a public agency. I don't have a problem with that. And like Director Hanks says, that everybody should be signing for their own P cards. And if there's a problem here, let's rectify it, straighten it out, and let's move on.
And that's what we intend to do. Probably on the December 21st, we're going to bring the other report, and you're going to have the chance to read it before it comes to...
Should we do a motion for A and B, or should we go individual?
Well, they
individual?
They haven't presented it.
Okay.
B yet.
Okay, please vote on A. Moving to number B, letter B, Customer Service Center cash audit stated June 30, 2010.
Yes, thank you. We conducted this routine cash audits of the customer service cash boxes and their center petty cash funds, and we have no reportable findings and make no recommendations. Are there any questions on that report?
Can we get a motion?
For approval.
There's a first, there's a second, discussion?
And what is the need for the petty cash?
Each of the centers, especially the ones that are, you got your Brawley and your Calexico offices, they have a very small fund available to them for small needs, like they need pens or pencils or something like that.
What the P card for?
No, this is a cash. You said, the P cards, not everyone has them.
Oh, petty cash. I just don't see that there's a need for petty cash, period.
It's very small. In some of these offices, it's $100. And the activity is very low, Director Hanks. But
Most public agencies that have a petty cash fund don't admit to it.
well, these are audited, so
Comment.
I know, but I mean, I really think you got to take a hard look at that.
Director Desert?
we will do that. We will do that.
Yeah, I have a comment too. In the last couple of years, I think I heard of an issue where there was a clerk or someone that had a petty cash box that was not making a balance for $4 to $8. And I don't know if this is closed session or I heard it on the streets or if you board members know about this. And she took money out of her pocket to make the balance, and that was brought forward as a mistake on her part, and she was disciplined and let go. Is that an incorrect story or is that accurate?
Who knows?
That's an incorrect story. There was an employee that was disciplined with regard to a petty cash matter, but it was investigated, and I think I know which one you're talking about.
She wasn't terminated?
There was an employee that was disciplined. I don't remember the details. It may have been a termination, but I think I know which one you're talking about.
All right, there's a first and a second for item B. Please vote. Moving on to...
Wait, Director Mendoza. It's stuck.
Kick it.
I can't see.
Which agreement?
Use the pen. Can you take it off?
Here's your laser.
Got to get in with it once in a while.
Right now, Gloria.
There you go.
Are you voting yes?
He said push the green
Thank
one.
you.
Okay,
Use your laser,
are you voting
Stella.
yes?
You can point with the laser. She's going to
Just
point
vote
with the
no,
laser.
it passed for. You can abstain if you want. Press the abstain button.
Let the record reflect. She pushed the green one.
Okay. I voted yes, Gloria.
Okay, there's a
That
yes.
thing doesn't work.
Moving on to water, amend service agreement for Dr. John Eckhart.
Yes, Mr. King has some comments.
As you know, we had a service agreement with Dr. Eckhart for last year.
No, we
And
don't.
this is an extension of that existing service agreement. We're just fixing to move into the crucial stages of implementation of the System Conservation Program. And Dr. Eckhart has worked on this program extensively for the last 7, 8 years, even before that in other aspects that went through that. And without his knowledge and expertise to help us move this project forward through the implementation phase, it's going to be very difficult to move forward without the knowledge that he has and the transfer of that knowledge as we move to the team. One of the things we'll be doing, which will follow this one, which would be the work plan that we got to get into to help develop the total implementation for the $283 million program. And his knowledge is going to be very crucial as we move forward with that. So what I'm asking to do is to increase his service agreement by $217,500 for consulting services in 2011. And these monies are funded in the QSA Water Transfer Program budget. If you got any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
That's not a question. That's the contract for the full year's $217,500.
Correct.
Starting January 1, ending December 30.
We're going to have to be very careful with that money because that's not a full year. So, and how I manage those monies.
Yeah, I know before he's been almost double that in his
Correct.
contracts in the past, but what's been explained to me, you need him for certain things, so they've cut this thing down. And so it's pretty skinny, but you need him to finish up on some of these projects.
It's real skinny, and I'm going to have to be very careful how we use him through this, especially this first 3 months is going to be very crucial as we go through this work plan, which I'll go through in detail on the next board item.
So this is a partial year contract? It's not a full year?
It goes through the end of 2011, so I just have to make sure that I try to use the money wisely as best we can, and if it don't work, then I'll have to work out other issues. But right now, this is
We'd
what
have
we're
to
going.
bring it back, but we're not expecting to.
Right.
I move to approve.
I'll second it.
There's a first and a second for discussion.
Yeah, I have some more discussion. Here again in the streets, they're running for the office of the IID Board. Casares did a request for information, and he brought forward some interesting information to a couple of forums in regards to contracts and consultants. And under Dr. Eckhart's name, there was multiple contracts. Is there more than one contract at this time that he's being paid on besides this salary or this contract that he's being paid for?
Not that I've.
No.
He's on one contract.
Just
He's been
one
on contracts
contract.
in the past, other contracts.
There's other contracts we have with a consulting team that worked on this process, but that wasn't under Dr. Eckhart.
Okay,
As far as I know, this is the only one that I know of.
Yeah.
Director Avati? Director Hanks.
What would be the not to exceed amount on this one?
217.5.
This is a new service agreement?
No, it's an extension of the existing service agreement that he has for, the service agreement that he's under currently ends the 31st of this month. The close date is December 31st, 2010. So in order to use his services for the services I need to add this to that contract and put the extension date to December 31st, 2011.
Under the purchasing policy, as we recently revised it, whether it's an extension or new agreement, it still has to go back to the board and be handled
Well,
the same
I
way.
understand, but normally they're added on, you know.
Right. Well,
That's what we're doing.
Increase it to.
Yeah.
I don't have that number with me, Director Hanks, but this was his work plan for next year.
Okay, the contract we had with him last year, were all those funds expended? Because at the time.
I don't believe they were, no. Not yet. We still got a November billing to process and a December, and I just don't know where that stands.
Okay.
There's not going to be much left, if there's any left at all.
Is he classified as an employee? too?
No, he's a consultant.
He's an independent contractor.
Because there was a reorg chart that went around that showed him as an employee and a consultant.
Yes, Ross. To comment on
Was
That's
was
not
a
correct. He's not an
reorg and
employee.
And mistake then? Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a time in the future coming where his historical work will stand on its own, or will he always be employed to run the QSA transfer and water items?
No, the thought is a transition. That's one of the things that I'm doing now, starting out on the implementation of the system conservation plan. was to try to start taking some of that stuff into IID people, and we'll be hiring some folks to help run that program as we move forward. But the idea is eventually that he phases out and he's gone. We're hoping that's this year.
A follow-up question on Director Deserts. You said that we're going to hire some people. Would it be cheaper just to keep him if we have to hire 2 or 3 people?
No, there's other parts of this program that that have to be done that he's eventually going to phase out. I'm going to get it started, and I don't think it's a secret, so I'm not throwing anything out there. This is a 7-year program. I'm not going to be here 7 years. So someone's got to get on my side to start learning this thing as we go. So, I mean, I don't know that I necessarily know exactly when I'm going to go or so forth, but I know I'm not going to be here in 7 years. I'm going to retire before then. So we need someone that's going to pick up those pieces.
John?
Yeah, I might point out that we're going to also vote on AECom.
Yes, that's.
And on page 233, there's project managers $220 an hour, senior techs $243, program managers $263, technical directors $275, and a project executive is $300 an hour. And,
correct.
And Mr. Eckhart's charging $210 an hour.
That's correct. We got a real bargain with Dr. Eckhart actually on his prices when you look at the consultants. And I'll be talking about this on the next agreement.
Okay, please vote. Move.
Still can do it. It doesn't, it's stuck. Mendoza votes yes.
Oh, okay.
All right, move on to approval of service agreement for ACOM to develop a system efficiency conservation plan of work for Centro water transfer.
As you know, at the last board meeting, I believe, on the information item, I brought up the fact that we would be working to get a contract for AECOM to develop a work plan. This is the first part of the system conservation plan. They will develop a work plan for the RFP that we sent out, RFQ, that has all the elements of this program in it. They'll be given documents to look at the inline reservoirs, the automation, the gates, the computers for the San Jero pickups, the interties from one lateral to other laterals, and also for an additional reservoirs and things, and the mid-valley if it so chooses to move forward. They're going to be taking that and the information from us and developing a work plan that will lay out their resources and also a schedule for this thing to be completed, the system conservation program. And we'll be working with them hand in hand. There's about 7 or 8 meetings or 9 meetings that go forward on this. And if we pass the service agreement tonight, our first meeting will be on December the 14th on the SCADA side. We also have to have a look at the SCADA that we're going to use and also the communication system we're going to use. And this was a competitive process. And we went through an outreach, and there was the 3 different companies that proposed. There was CH2M Hill, Montgomery Watson Harza, and AECOM. And that was interviewed by a panel of 5. And I have the paper over here that shows from the contracts that it was done through a process with them involved. And so we went through and met in this room. They each they had written proposals that were given to us in advance that we read. Then we had an interview with each one of these, and there was 5 of us that voted on which candidate got the job. And so AECOM was the top vote getter, or I say the vote getter had the top points. It was very close with all of our consultants. They were all good teams, but this is the one we chose, based on qualifications and the expertise that they showed that they had to move forward. We felt they were the best qualified to lead this charge. So this $257,700, what we're doing here on this service agreement, is strictly for the work plan. Now, once the work plan is approved, and as we work on the work plan, we will be developing the major work authorization that will come back to this board before we move any further forward with AECOM on the implementation of the system conservation program. So through this effort, and their scope of work is in there in the back of it, and again, Director Menville's already pointed out the cost associated with this, and it's there, and there's their team members and the different workshops that are planned on the back. So this is the first step to move forward. and to get the work plan developed to where we can come to an agreement on it. And if we do, they'll also have their resources and also have a cost to do the program for us.
All right, I'll move for approval.
Second.
First and a second discussion.
Yeah, I've got a question for legal. Is there any conflict of interest there for Mr. Silva in this process?
No, the only law that I'm aware of is that there's a prohibition 1 year after a general manager or board member is no longer a board member that they not lobby the board. That's the only prohibition that I'm aware of that could create some type of conflict.
Okay, there's nothing in terms of his past employment as confidential or signed releases or anything that would interfere?
I can't think of anything. If you've got some in mind, I mean,
I'm just...
the only thing
That particular firm that he's working for, George Cairo Engineering, it will be working on the right-of-way issues, and with Jesse's contacts and so forth, they felt that he was a good one to work with. He knows the farmers, he knows the people. So we'll have basically an outside firm, but an inside Valley person that'll be working with trying to get our right-of-way issues resolved.
I
with the
only
landowners.
ask because sometimes with the handshake packages and so forth, there may be provisions written in it, and I don't know that he even has one.
He probably does have a settlement agreement. I may have seen it at one time. I don't remember, and I can take a peek at it just to make sure. But given the amount of years that have gone by, I don't think there's a problem.
Gloria, the lights are hung up there.
Now, is this just going to be mostly with the SCADA work, or is it going to be with the QSA?
This work plan will develop the whole system conservation program that this board has seen many times presented to them. And it'll include the SCADA system, the communication system, the gate automation for the headings and the spills, and all the measurement reading devices for the 5,600 deliveries that we have. Interties, which is basically just coming out of one canal, dumping it into another canal. There'll be some small reservoirs and inline reservoirs created, and so it's for the whole program. So these people will basically, instead of the district staffing up with a lot of folks for 7 years, we brought in a consulting firm that'll help us manage this project with oversight from IID folks, as I talked about, myself and somebody that will bring on board to take my place at some point, an administrative assistant, someone that's to do the paperwork, and then probably like a project coordinator type person to help manage those things from a district standpoint.
I need some historical knowledge from you, Mike.
Okay.
On the definite plan, I haven't found anywhere in the minutes where there was ever action taken to approve a definite plan. There may have been direction given to move forward with a definite plan or create a definite plan, but there's been modifications in it, different projects. Those have been brought to us, in segments.
Mm-hmm.
But the question I keep getting asked, has the board ever improved the definite plan in its totality? Because we just keep moving at it, and that's the question I have.
This is part of the definite plan, and I think what it is the definite plan was an overall big picture, and there's individual pieces that'll be brought back to the board for approval as we move forward. The system conservation plan is in the definite plan. We had the near-term actions, if you remember, that we went into, and we did that. We also had the seepage recovery program that we did. We came back to the board for those individual pieces, so with an MWA. So there's not an overall MWA for the definite plan, if that's your question. No. It's never been approved in that manner. It's all been moved forward, and we bring back the individual pieces as we move forward. And so we've done the near-term actions we did, the testing that we did on the Orange Lateral, some other testing places that we did things. Then we did the seepage project on the High Line, which has been completed, which was a $7.6 million project that was brought back on an MWA. Now we're moving forward with another component of the definite plan, which is the system conservation plan. Then in 2013, or before 2013, we'll be bringing back eventually an MWA for the on-farm component as we move forward.
I have a follow-up question on that. But you did provide the board with the schedule.
Yes.
Though.
Yes.
So as far as I understand, you're going, every time you come for a vote, it's according to schedule.
Correct, basically.
Well, and the important thing, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but the reason this is so important to develop this plan, this will create the MWA, which we will be bringing to you as the next step. This is a 13 or 14-week process.
Right, mid-February is when I believe is when we're supposed to get the results of the work plan. But in the process, we're not just going to wait till we get it. We're going to be working with them, and we're going to be developing the MWA in-house with the project management group that works with the water department, David and others, as we go through this, and basically have it pretty close to being finished when we're done, where we don't have a 3-month time lag between the finishing of the work plan and trying to move forward with the MWA, where we can keep the consultants busy and keep them moving forward.
Any ideas or estimates of what the MWA will be, the price will be of that MWA?
Well, the price for the MWA will be $283 million, because that's the basic program. But we will have to develop a contract, and through this work plan, we will get their cost estimate to do that total work plan. So we will be coming even back after this one, and I guess since it's this, it'll be an extension of this one to add to whatever component that will be to move forward. So we don't move forward with any past this point until we come back to the board again, which
Well, you
to
will
move
be,
forward.
the 18 million that we receive from San Diego after December 31st when it becomes non-refundable, and then I think up to 25 million next year. Will you be back MWA for the entire, or will you still be bringing it in pieces? Because I know you're not going to bring back a 283. Actually, it'll be less because we'll have spent 25, so it'll be 255, so to speak, right? Whenever the QSA's process has been done, and if we're going to move forward.
We'll bring back an MWA for the system components for the total that we need to get completed for the system conservation plan. But in that MWA, it'll also be outlined in there that we, and talking to Mr. Broking, we know that we have $18 million, maybe $25 million, and we will manage these people.
Right.
To that, we've changed the schedule. Right. We've pushed the Mid-Valley Collector all the way to the back end of the project, and we're only doing those basically the 4 components: the SCADA, the COM, the gates, the computers, and the measurement devices. That's what we're going to try to accomplish, and we won't get all that done because just the measurement devices themselves are $68 million. But we're going to run some pilot programs to find out which pieces, when we go out to bid, which ones are the right ones to put in the system. We're not going to go buy 5,600 things that we don't know that works. Stella'd shoot me because they have probably devices on them
No,
that
I
measure
will.
things. But we're going to be very careful on how we select. And we'll have, we've already got some runs in the north, runs in the south to test all this stuff over time. And that's what we'll be doing in this 2-year period. Because $18 million, when you're getting this kind of technology and stuff, doesn't go very far.
Director Desert?
And how many gates, and are those Rubicon gates that we're talking about?
We don't know. They're going to be put out to a competitive bid for the lateral heading gates and the spill gates. The measurement devices, more than likely, they can be, they probably won't be, depending on the cost, will not be gates in the deliveries. They'll just be attachments that go on, and they'll just measure the water. The gates will still be operating. Now, someone may come up with an idea, say, hey, I got a thing that works, it's a gate, and it has a lifting device, and I can do it for just as cheap as like you can put in those measurement devices. So I'm not going to say we're going to rule that out, but we're just trying to get measurement devices, whatever that turns out to be, but it's a competitive bid. And also to keep from going for increasing IID staff to any degree. Once what we do with those measurement devices, they'll be you will provide them, you will install them, and you will maintain them. And the maintenance contract for those is probably about a 3-year contract to make sure that they can perform and do the things they do. So it's a kind of a turnkey type situation when we put those in, where we don't have to staff up. Because 5,600 gates, we would have to have a tremendous amount of SCADA technicians and stuff that we don't feel, even working with Jim as we work through this, we don't need to hire that many people. This is something that would be outsourced to, probably somebody would bring in
and bring their company down in here and set up offices and technology, place to repair and et cetera like that. So,
And hopefully manufacture them here.
it very well could
Is there any
be.
chance that we'll just replace the same type of a gate with a conventional gate that we already have?
My guess is if there's a gate, I have seen one that one manufacturer is proposing. The slide gate is going to stay the slide gate. This goes on in front of the pipe, and there's a gate on that one. That's one technology that's out there besides mag meters and et cetera that would go inside the pipe to read. So it's really up to there. We don't plan on replacing delivery structures and or the existing delivery gates at this point. We just have to see what best works out and how we move forward.
Director Hanks?
Couple of questions. Has this been brought to the WCAB?
The system conservation plan?
No, just
This service agreement?
Yeah, the service agreement.
No.
Okay, on the members on the team members, are they subcontractors to AECOM?
Okay, let me get over there.
What do you call it?
There are some subcontractors to AECOM. Bert Clemens, for example, is USDA Arizona, over in Arizona. Most of these people, if you look, though, it shows that AECOM, there's a firm in there that's called MSO. That's a SCADA firm in communications. What's that?
Subsidiaries of?
No, they are not a subsidiary to that. So all of these teams, the one we chose, the other two that we didn't choose, were made up of different consultants. There's so many different aspects of this program that not everybody has all the stuff.
Will they all have their own liability insurance? Or
Yes, and this will all be run through contracts, and we have worked this all through contacts. We've worked with Carmen over there, so this has all been a process. They set in, they monitored us, we've done it by the book.
Okay, please vote. Move on to third quarter, finance, third quarter 2010 energy risk management report.
Valenzuela.
Good afternoon,
Valenzuela,
Board.
it's nice to see you back.
Oh, thank you. Nice
look
to
very
see you
good.
too.
You
Thank
look very
you.
nice.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Board. I'm Belen Valenzuela, the risk manager, and I'm here to present the third quarter energy risk management reports. Just kind of a brief overview of the reports that have been included in your packet. Let me see if I remember how to work this. Yeah. According to the risk policy, there are 6 reports that I give to the board on a quarterly basis. They're basically a summary of the energy risk management meetings that occurred during the quarter, variance report of actual versus budget of the purchase power and fuel, and a summary of the power strategy sheet, which basically gives you the positions that we still need to procure for the next 36 months, and a summary of the energy and natural gas portfolios and any transactions that exceeded 36 months, and also a compliance report. So just to quickly let you know, there were 3 meetings during the third quarter, and they were basically to go over the Imperial Valley Solar Peak project that the board signed off, I think, in September of this year, approved. So the first one is just the power and energy variance report. The 2010 budget was at about $258 million. It looks like it's coming in to about 211. It's about a $46 million variance, a good variance in that sense. And the big driver behind this is really the forecast is coming in quite a bit lower than what was projected. I think our energy sales are going to end up being about almost 7% less. KWH sales about 7% less than what we anticipated. And also the market prices have been quite low, so your trading unit's been able to take advantage and go out there and procure some of that less expensive energy and natural gas. Let's see. Also, this next is kind of a summary of the short positions, meaning what is needed out there. And like always, it's, since we are such a peaking utility and our megawatts go up about 600 megawatts during the summer, we're short in the summers of 2011, 12, and 13. We're in pretty good position for 2011. And I just wanted to share with the board, this does not include the repowering of unit number 3, which is supposed to come live in 2012, or the Sun Peak Solar, which is another 20 megawatts that's has an operation date of April of 2011. That's not included in here because resource planning is just wanting to get a little bit closer to those due dates before they actually put it in the resource to make sure that those are going to be good dates. So, but with those two,
Len, what's been the average the last between 2005 and 2010 as far as peak?
Well, 2010, our peak was 1,004. Where's Dave? 1,004. Our peak was 1,004.
Do you have a best estimated guess as far between 2005 and 2010 over 5 years?
Oh, it's how much it's gone up? Let's see, 9. Well, it went up, then it went back down. So if I had to guess, probably about 990 megawatts.
990?
Uh-huh.
And we
I'd
expect
average
it
it
up
out.
to go 1,100 next year, even 1,200, 13?
Yeah, now remember, that's with our, that is with the 15% reserve that we have to have. So remember that if they anticipate 1,000 megawatts, they have to put 15% on top of that, just in order to meet the Western Electrical Coordinating Council reserve requirements.
Thank you.
Okay. And that's just, basically in case there's any type of emergency or anything like that, and you
Or
needed
growth.
the megawatts or growth.
Yep.
Uh-huh. But this is just an overall view of the energy portfolio. It's basically telling us how much of our budget is fixed and how much of it is subject to market. So for 2011, you got about 58% budget certainty, and for 2012, about 46%. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to. Now, also in your risk report, it mentions that the trades that were made, there were 5 energy trades and 4 gas trades. So all of that helped lock in some of the budget certainty. For instance, from the second quarter to third quarter, those trades, we went from 43 to 58% budget certainty in 2011. And I think it was from 18 to 24 for the 2012. And then this is just, I kind of break it down so you can see on the native generation how much fuel has been bought and with budget certainty. So you've got about 67% of your forecast that's locked up with fixed prices.
By the end of December, is that number going to go up from 57 in 2011?
Yeah, because, well, for 2011, if I had to guess, Dave will probably get that closer to 70, and if prices stay low, he might even get the AGM to get it up to 80%. Well, I guess he will be the AGM, so they might push it up. Because remember, in the policy, the way the policy reads is your energy department manager can lock in up to 70%, and then anything above that up to 100% requires the AGM signature. And that's just because of the forecast. Remember, we're just basing on a forecast. As we get closer and as they finish off 2010, they'll true up that forecast. So they don't want to get up to 100% quite yet until they're.
When do we get budget certainty for, let's say if Mr. Jane or Mr. Koch now, who's new energy manager, at the end of December, budget 70% of the gas, that 30%, and there's no GM approval up to 100%, and it's kind of left alone. This is, I guess, a hypothetical because he might do it. That 30%, when does it become budget certainty?
Well, it could come budget certainty a month before or a day before. So
I'm guessing that would be a part of the fluctuation? Okay.
But it's good to keep this type of variance in the sense of the natural gas, just because it is just a forecast. And so they're also going to be truing up their numbers and kind of probably looking at that forecast even a little bit closer to make sure. Now this, as I've kind of noted, I've done this for like the month of July, because the July is that's usually when we peak, and that's probably our highest risk month as far as, as our cost for the summer months. And Yucca doesn't show any. That is because, remember, we don't own any capacity rights on that line. So Dave has been working, and I think he's completed the negotiations on those contracts, and they're just building that lateral. And it's my understanding that lateral's supposed to be in place in April, and at that point, he can start physically hedging for the gas at the Yucca plant. And basically, the conclusion of the reports are, you know, that the resource planning, they're within budget. Like I said, they're 46 million below, so they're doing a great job, and hasn't been any exceptions to report in the third quarter.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a question. Could you go back to page 3, slide 3 of your presentation? Back again, one more. Yeah, that one. And this is for Mr. Broking and the board here. The column in green is what was budgeted, is what was projected in the budget.
Uh-huh. Yes.
And the column in brown there is what's being projected as actual.
So, yeah, so that 258 million that you see for 2000, for the actual budget, that was done back last year. So what we do now, what I do is, as we get closer, any positions that are still open that we haven't bought for, I put a market price based on what the market's saying, and we do a forecast on it.
Now, if we take the difference between the green column and the brown column, that comes to 46,270,000. And remember, the subject of this slide here, this presentation, is purchased power and fuel variance report. Or it's in our handbook here, in our budget book here, our agenda, it says natural gas expenses and purchased power expenses. Wouldn't that $46,270,000 be ECA over collection, regardless if you were using a board-adopted formula that was the same formula back when it was frozen, or if you were using a new formula that hasn't been adopted by the board? Either way you look at it, isn't that $46 million, over $46 million, an ECA over collection?
Well, I'll respond to a part of that because I'm guessing that Director Desert disagrees with my decision and or policy, so to speak, of how I handle money. The board decided.
Wait a minute. He asked the question out here. Let him answer it.
Oh yeah, but wait a minute. But the board makes the policies and makes the decisions.
I understand, but you have a director that asks the question to staff. Let them answer it.
But do you understand that we make the policy?
You don't. This isn't policy right now. He's asking a question.
Well,
with all due respect, Mr. Sanchez.
I'll go ahead and finish, and then Mr. Broking, you can answer. The board decided to cash reserves $80 million. And for specific reasons, my specific reason was to protect the district from a huge dip or a huge spike in natural gas, protecting itself from inflation, like in 2008, where it would be used as, without having to raise rates, we can use those ECA funds to cover those costs, like we did in 2008. Now, again, I understand your feeling, again, when your policy in 2008, right before an election, you said that the district needs to do its fiduciary responsibility and raise rates and not use cash reserves. Well, my policy making or my value is no, use cash reserves, not raise rates during a Great Recession. Now, that is one board member's value where I believe maybe you shouldn't be calling an overcollection, but put it more toward the board members and say that's the wrong policy.
Okay, thank you. Last year there was a net profit or overcollection potentially of $87.6 million. Of that, some $52 million was put into the rate stabilization account, which I believe you're talking about the $80 million. I believe it was capped at to be $100 million. And that's fine. That took care of last year, although there's some $35 million still not accounted for because only $52 million went into the rate stabilization account. What I'm talking about is this year. That green column minus the brown column equals $46,270,000 for this year. Wouldn't that number be considered over collection of the ECA for this current year?
No, well, for one, I don't believe that the district can over-collect because we're not allowed to make profit. But you said yourself right now, 46 million. You add 46 million in 2010 and 2009, another 40 million equals to 80 million, which is the money that I was talking about.
Okay, but I'm asking Mr. Brokey now.
Mr. Brokey?
In your decision, in your understanding of the ECA collection, regardless if it was the old formula that was used when it was originally frozen and adopted by the board, that same one and the same formula, or a new formula that the staff has used in some of the 6 presentations since you've been on board, Mr. Broking, is that $46,270,000 in your estimation ECA over collection?
No, I don't believe it is. There's a couple factors going on and why that number is lower. Belen talked about most of them. But the point I'd like to emphasize is energy sales are down too. So that's one reason why your power supply costs are down. Although your expenses are down, your revenue is down also. And it's hard for me to think that we've had any over collection the last couple of years in the ECA because the situation that this district is in right now, we're not in a position to borrow long-term. We cannot get long-term financing because of the lawsuit. Our capital needs are greatly in excess of what the district generates. We can't have a pay-as-you-go capital program that lasts more than a few months or maybe a year without some major changes of the way we do business. So to say that there's an over-collection when we don't really in the long term or the medium term, see where all our money is going to come from. I don't think there is one.
Well, the way I understand the ECA rate, it applies to, at a minimum, the simplest format, purchase power and purchase fuel. Now you say we had less energy sales. Well, that would mean that would equate to being less energy purchased to sell or less fuel purchased to make that energy. And I understand and appreciate your discussion. I just like to point that out to everybody that, in my estimation, when I see a presentation like this, this appears to be straightly involved with the ECA, and it looks like an overcollection for this year. And we must remember that the ratepayer is important, and we are accountable to that ratepayer. And fiscal projects, capital projects, should be funded out of the base rate, not out of a floating, supposed to be floating ECA rate. Thank you.
Like to move the board's acknowledgement of the receipt of the 2010 third quarter energy risk management report.
Second.
There's a first and a second. Discussion?
I've got a question now.
Oh, do you want me to go back?
Yeah, what about Green Hunter? Where are we at with them?
Right now, we had an update on that on the risk management, Dave. I think, do you want to answer that? I think they're on schedule.
Were they part of these figures, or?
Have we been taking anything from them?
No, we haven't taken anything
They're still
from them
running
yet.
on natural gas, right?
Dave Koch, Energy Manager. No, sir, Green Hunter looks like it's coming online still in the May-June time period. So it'd be part of the 2011 power supply budget, as is Sun Peak Solar.
They're testing with natural gas right now, I think.
Okay. Did they ever get their PUC permits and things worked out?
I don't know about a PUC permit that they would need. They're selling to us in our district. They received everything. There was a water board.
They took an assignment from the previous entity that took an assignment from the previous entity of an old water supply contract that still has about 7 years on it. Rather than renegotiate a new one, that's what they decided to do. We said that's fine.
Okay.
My understanding is that they're ready to run, but they're shaking down their plant and running it on natural gas first, and I'm not sure when they're going to be online.
Okay, will it still be classified as renewable?
Yes, sir. I didn't know that they were doing natural gas. on it. I knew that they were building and that they had ordered a new boiler, so there may
I
have been
think the
something.
intent is to go renewable
It's
at a certain point.
still going to be a biomass plant, but to get the equipment spinning. But I do not know that they've actually done first turn.
Oh, one last question. Are there additional savings or efficiencies that we can look forward to getting if we bring our day trading online even further and eliminate, I believe it's Coral? Is Coral the one?
Coral. Well, we can eliminate Coral. The district is a balancing authority, but it is not a schedule coordinator. And we have no plans to become a schedule coordinator. We do have additional dollars that could be saved if our schedulers were there 24 hours a day and we never allowed Shell. And Coral Energy was a subsidiary of Shell. Shell essentially, eventually absorbed Coral into the organization, so now everything is Shell, Shell Energy Trading. When we're short, say at 2 o'clock in the morning, Shell goes out and purchases for us, and it purchases from the ISO market. If our people were there 24 hours a day, we would beat Shell. Whether or not there's enough savings for a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week trading desk, not at this time. But we would like to cover Monday through Sunday, 6 in the morning till 10 at night.
Thank you, Dave.
One last question for Mrs. Valenzuela. On the graph that Director Desert on page 3, now that did not include capacity charges except for spot buys. Is that correct?
No, that included the whole purchase power and fuel budget. But what I do is, based on what the market prices are going at, I do a forecast on about what it's going to come in at. But that also includes all your capacity charges.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, please vote. Move on to item 23, 24. No, 3.
23.
Adoption of resolution
24,
approving.
we have,
No, we're in 23.
24 is being requested.
Oh, 24 has been requested. Oh, 20, where's 24?
Did we ask to 24?
Okay.
They've been very patient. You want to go see the Lakers?
Hello, my name is Donald Vargas. I work at the Environmental, Regulatory, and Emergency Planning section. And I'm, good afternoon, board members. We come to you for approval of the release for public review of the draft mitigated negative declaration for the Imperial Valley to Dixieland 230 kVA transmission line project and substation expansion project.
I move to approve.
Second.
There's a first and a second for discussion. Please vote.
Yeah, congratulations.
Back to 23.
Thank you.
Okay.
Adoption of resolution approving the 2011 budget and staffing plan for the electric, water, and centralized service departments.
Yeah, and Greg's going to go through a brief presentation, but one of the things I wanted to mention is that the reason we have it here, December 7th, is that's the schedule. We promised the board it'd be in your packet on December 7th. Having said that, as Mr. Desert mentioned, ECAC was last night. They did discuss, as I understand, they discussed it extensively, and we understand that they're going to be submitting comments as well. WCAC is meeting tomorrow, and Mr. Kalin has put that on as a discussion item. So staff is not in a huge hurry for you to asking for you to approve it today. We will keep bringing it back until the board is comfortable. But I would expect that you'd want to see those comments from the 2 advisory boards.
Yeah.
Okay, Greg, sorry about that.
Thank you. Actually, what I would propose, there is a presentation in the board agenda, but I would propose to discuss that next Monday night, if that's okay. And if I could, I could give you,
Okay.
I could give you a summary of the changes that were made to the budget as a result of the board resolution from last week.
That would be good. Next, the 13th, bring it back.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. The rest of the board, fine with that
That's
for
fine.
Monday?
All
right.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Greg.
On item 24,
Who's gonna bring back
Election of officers?
the changes?
Well, Mr. Hanks is still
not
on.
right now, but I'd like to get with Mr. Koch and go over this expansion project, some justification and so forth for it.
The,
Could I meet with you sometime just to go over 24 with you?
the Bannister, or the.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Sure.
Not right now.
We're
All
just,
right, Governance 25, election of officers, aide, president, and vice president.
What's our policy say?
oh, geez.
It's by policy, isn't
We
it?
Nominate-
have yes, we do. What is it, Mr. Garber?
What is it, Ms. Rivera?
Yeah.
I'll move for
There's a
Stella
mo-
Mendoza to be president in 2011.
There's a motion for Stella Mendoza to be president in 2011. Help us God. Just kidding. Is there? I'll second.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, not with that. With the procedure now. We went out of rotation, okay, and then we adopted a policy,
We adopt,
and it's, so now,
It's a
the
rotation.
rotation that we were in before, are we back in that rotation again?
God, I should
Now,
have put the
there's,
policy, I apologize.
and we adopted a policy that you had to be a director for 2 years before you could serve as president.
Yeah.
Is that
Yes, and we
correct?
had an issue
You
because.
got
of
it? You got it there?
Can I see it? Thank you, Director Des.
Of course, a new director
Dirk-
would have policies, yeah.
Because
Director Hank.
I just want clarification
Oh,
because.
that's fine, it's 2 years.
Oh.
We're back on the regular rotation. Mendoza, me, and then you. And then Sanchez,
well, he-
and then him. He gets a shot at it in 2 years.
Well,
We're
Yes,
not
no,
in the,
he-
we're not in the same rotation because Director Abadi
Yes.
left.
If he had
Okay,
stayed,
so
then
he
we'd be in the
comes, he
rotation.
would be the third one, then he goes back in the rotation on the third, then he becomes eligible.
are you talking about a rotation? Is that in the past, or the rotation was broken because Director Body is no longer a director?
Is it in the,
Well, it had it by divisions.
or is it in here?
We were going by
It's in
divisions.
the board governors,
but
215.
We, yeah.
Kevin, did you want to come up and explain it in great detail? Or in,
Well-
at least accurately?
Kevin, isn't it supposed to work out where everyone has a chance? I know in Heber, public utility, everyone had a chance to be president, but somewhere along the line, something happened.
I don't
Right.
have to be president, Director Sanchez.
Well,
Someone
where-
else
I
can be.
already seconded it.
It doesn't.
We have to vote for
I
it.
don't want this, I just want clarification how this goes. It
Yeah.
has nothing to do, I'm supportive of you being the president, okay?
That's
All right.
fine. Thank you.
Where it went off course was when we deviated with Director Abadi. So that's where the chairs weren't observed. So if you were to go back,
Edit 1214.
Okay. If you go back, I was next in rotation, and I stepped back and let Director Manville take that slot.
that's right.
Okay, because the way the rotation was, it was all, okay. And keeping in mind with the division, when that division has the chair, not the person in it.
And the succession with the board
Oh,
member
okay,
next in line.
wait,
Okay.
wait, wait.
So
Jeff.
normally it would have been Director Deserts, what division you in?
One.
One? It would have been Division One.
TS
But because of our policy, okay, so it moves out. Director Mendoza moves in. The next year, he still has to move out one, and that'd be Director Minville, okay? But now he served 2 years, now he moves back into the
Right, I think
rotation.
that the 2-year prohibition is officer. So after the 2 years, Director Desert could be
Eligible.
vice.
No, he's eligible.
No, I don't think it comes to a vote.
Well,
I think that's-
excuse
Gloria?
me.
Ms. Rivera, could you read it?
No.
vote me out once, don't you remember?
No, I
Wait,
remember stepping
let's-
aside so you could be in there.
Let's, Gloria? Or,
Vote, although it's a formality. It says the Board of Directors shall elect both the president and vice president. You have to serve for 2 years, and then you can forego for 1 year, and then there's that swapping by seniority that you discussed. You've got it all right. And I think the reason we didn't pay attention to it is because we'd already figured out, based on this rule, who they were, and we'd been discussing it for some time, so we stopped looking at the rule.
well, Jeff, he also added by seat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No, it's by seniority.
By seniority, okay. So you don't have to go by seat. All right, there's a motion and a second.
Wait a minute, I want to get clear.
Gloria,
Well, also when Director Allen passed on.
Yes.
Because in 2006, Director Horn was president. 2007, Director Mendoza. 8, Mr. Menville. 3, Hanks. And 5 was you. So it kind of got screwed up
Really?
when Director
You can't-
Allen was.
You got to go by the division.
Is that in the policy, Jeff? By seat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Election to the position of president and vice president shall rotate
I guess the board
from
could
member
change
to
it if they
member
want to.
based on the seniority of the board members who have not most recently served, except as follows. You have to serve at least 2 years. You must forego nomination because of lack of tenure and swap down the line. And then there's some other rules that explain how the swapping takes place.
And that's the governance policy?
Yes, it's governance policy G15. I should remember it since I wrote it, but
Any other questions, Director Hanks?
No, I'm ready to vote.
All right, let's vote. All right, now let's, do you elect vice president?
Nominate John Pierre Menville as vice president?
Second,
Second, third, fourth.
please vote. All right. Treasurer,
Nominate Maria Caldera?
Second.
please vote. And secretary,
Nominate Ms. Gloria Rivera?
Second.
first and second, please vote. And there's no consent items agenda. This meeting is adjourned.
Hang on just a minute.
Oh,
The committees, what about the standing committees and the representatives that serve on those? How are those handled?
the only stand.
probably
the-
just go into body seats, right?
There are some different committees, such as the representatives on the Salton Sea Authority. Those are standing committees.
Bring them. Bring them up.
We can certainly come back to you with who all those folks are, so you can reconsider that. It has been a while.
Why don't you,
First meeting in January, let's put it on the
yeah,
agenda.
why don't you bring him back the first meeting, all the committees, and if the people,
We'll do
the
the whole
board members
thing.
want to
Yeah,
switch,
I'll be
that's
there in
fine.
15 minutes.
That's good. Good idea, Mr. Hanks. Are we adjourned?
15 minutes.
Yeah, we're adjourned.